Today we're going to read a story called The Sword and the Stone. It's actually a very famous story and it's even been made into several movies. But I want to start with reviewing the story with you guys and then giving you a little bit of vocabulary that's mixed in here. After the death of good King Uther, a miraculous stone appeared outside his castle. In the stone was a sword with the following words engraved upon its hilt. Now, the hilt of the sword is the handle where you hold it, so he has a message on the end of the sword. I am Excalibur, the sword in the stone. Who pulls me free shall have the throne. Now, the throne is where a king sits, so that it's saying here that whoever is able to pull this sword out of the stone will be made king. Many princes tried to pull the sword from the stone, and the strongest knights came from all over Britain to try. But no one could do it, and the Britons went without a king for a long time. One day, all the best knights of the kingdom were assembled at the castle for a tournament. Now, a tournament is kind of a competition. Sir Kay, a valiant and strong knight, so valiant means brave, broke his sword during a parry, and sent his young squire, a boy named Arthur, to his house to retrieve another sword. Now, a squire is kind of like the assistant to a knight. So Sir Kay broke his sword during the competition and sent Arthur, his assistant or his squire, to go get another sword. Arthur, unable to find the sword he'd been sent to find, but afraid to return without a new sword, saw the hilt of Excalibur gleaming in the sunlight. Without stopping to read the words on the hilt, Arthur drew out the sword and with great ease and brought it to Sir Kay. All the knights at the tournament were astonished or surprised to see the boy with the sword Excalibur. Tell us who gave you the sword so that we may proclaim a new king of Britain. So imagine, guys, that you're in a group of friends who are very athletic, your biggest, strongest, bravest knights, and suddenly a 12-year-old boy shows up and he's been able to do something that none of you were able to do. They think that he got the sword from someone else. When Arthur told them that he had pulled out the great sword himself, they laughed. Sir Kay, seeing the chance to become king, thrust the Excalibur back into the stone. So to thrust means to shove. He's putting it back in the stone, hoping that he can take this opportunity to prove to everyone that it's easy to pull out and that he truly deserves to be the king. Sir Kay, seeing the chance to become king, thrust the Excalibur back into the stone and went to retrieve it or go get it again, thinking that it would come free easily. But just as it had before, the sword stayed put. All the knights took a turn trying to loosen the sword. When each one of them failed, they brought little Arthur back to see what he could do. Then, before all their eyes, Arthur once again pulled the Excalibur from the stone. All hail King Arthur, the knights proclaimed, or they said officially, and they all pledged their loyalty to the new king of Britain. So our surprise ending here is that a 12-year-old, even though he's very small, was able to pull a sword out of the stone because he had the heart of the true king. And the big, brave men were unable to pull the same sword out and had to admit that they did not deserve to be king. So let's take a look at our questions. Some of them are pretty simple. Some of them are a little more complicated. What is the name of the sword in the stone? So this question is asking us for the name of the sword. So we find out about the sword in the beginning of the story. So we're going to go back to the top, and it's talking about in the stone was a sword with the following words engraved on it. I am Excalibur. So this is what's engraved on the sword. So it's the sword talking. The sword's name is Excalibur. And we have that capital E there letting us know that it's the sword's name. So our best choice is C, Excalibur. Why is the sword so important? Okay, so we're looking at the sword and we're looking at why it's important. So again, if we go back up to the top, when it's first introduced, who pulls me free shall have the throne. Many princes tried to pull the sword from the stone, and the strongest knights came from all over Britain to try, but no one could do it. So the sword is what allows them to become king. It's the message to everyone else that you deserve to be king, but it's also important because if you're not able to pull it out, even though you're strong and you have a lot of physical power, that doesn't necessarily mean you have power for the throne. So now that we've kind of thought that through and looked back at our answer, let's go ahead and write it. Restate our question first. The sword is important because whoever pulls it out will become king. Okay. Why is it strange that Arthur was able to